Hello, everybody, and welcome to the ET Considers Everything podcast for Tuesday, August 2nd, 2016. On this edition, I'll be taking a look at several of the sports stories that took place yesterday, including the MLB trade deadline with news from that. I'll also be taking a look at training camp news from the NFL, and I'll be taking a look at Team USA's last Olympic tune-up game with Nigeria that took place last night. So let's get going with this podcast, ladies and gentlemen. First, let's start off with NFL training camp news. ESPN was covering the Carolina Panthers training camp yesterday, and they had great coverage all day with Herm Edwards and Kevin Agandi down there in Spartanburg, South Carolina, covering Carolina Panthers training camp. Cam Newton looked calm and relaxed after last year's Super Bowl performance, where the Carolina Panthers were defeated in Super Bowl 50 by the Denver Broncos. They come into the season as the NFC favorites now, with Kelvin Benjamin returning from his torn ACL, which he suffered during last year's preseason. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Carolina Panthers do this upcoming season. They have a talent-filled roster. They did lose Josh Norman to the Washington Redskins, but it's going to be fun to see how they do as the defending NFC champions, no doubt about it. MLB trade deadline news from yesterday. We had several trades that took place. Carlos Beltran was traded from the New York Yankees to the Texas Rangers. Jonathon Lucroy was also traded from the Milwaukee Brewers to the Texas Rangers. We had Hill and Josh Reddick traded from the Oakland A's to the LA Dodgers. We also had several other moves. Andrew Miller went from the New York Yankees to the Cleveland Indians, and several other moves that were very important. Jay Bruce went from the Cincinnati Reds to the New York Mets. So it's going to be fun to see how all these trades impact the second half of the Major League Baseball season after the trade deadline. The non-waiver trade deadline is passed. The waiver trade deadline is August 31st. So there still could be some trade pieces that could take place. It's going to be very interesting to see how all these moves affect the races throughout Major League Baseball. In the AL East, the leaders are the Baltimore Orioles. In the AL Central, the leaders are the Cleveland Indians. In the AL West, the leaders are the Texas Rangers. In the NL East, the leaders are the Washington Nationals. In the NL Central, the leaders are the Chicago Cubs. And in the NL West, the leaders are the San Francisco Giants. The St. Louis Cardinals, Miami Marlins, and LA Dodgers are all competing for the NL wildcard spot. And in the AL, it looks like it's going to be between Houston and New York and Boston for the AL wildcard spot. So several big moves yesterday in MLB at the trade deadline. We have Team USA Olympic basketball news. Yesterday was their final pre-Olympic tune-up game before going to Rio for the 2016 Olympic basketball competition. Team USA defeated Nigeria last night 110-66. They done that on the strength of Carmelo Anthony getting 19 points, Kevin Durant getting 17 points. We also had Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan having 14 points as well. So it was a great all-around effort for Team USA. Now they move on to group play at the Olympics, which will begin on Saturday for Team USA. They will be taking on China in their first game at the Rio de Janeiro Olympics. So it's going to be fun to see how Team USA does. Soccer news this morning. Manchester City has acquired midfielder Leroy Sané from Schalke. This was a $48 million Euro transfer. Big time move there for Manchester City. It was kind of expected that they were going to get a big player, but they were really going after John Stones. But to get Leroy Sané is a big move for Manchester City, no doubt. With Manchester United already getting Zlatan Ibrahimovic, Paul Pogba, and several other great players in the transfer window. It's going to be very interesting to see how the Barclays Premier League season goes this season. Defending champion Leicester City, they will be in action tomorrow in the International Champions Cup against Barcelona at 2, and we'll also have Real Madrid taking on Bayern Munich at 7:30 in the International Champions Cup. All of those matches will be on the ESPN family of networks beginning at 2 o'clock. So it's going to be fun to see how these teams do with their new players and how all these teams adjust to having these new players on the rosters. NASCAR news from yesterday. Chris Buescher won the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series race at Pocono. It was rained and fog shortened to 138 out of 160 laps. It was a great race by all competitors. They embraced the elements and had a good time at the racetrack yesterday, but Chris Buescher came out on top. This was his first career NASCAR Sprint Cup Series victory. He now sits 31st in points, only 6 points back of 30th. He needs to get inside the top 30 along with his win to be eligible for the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Championship. There's only 5 races remaining in the chase for the NASCAR Sprint Cup Series Championship. The next race will be at Watkins Glen this weekend on NBCSN. Coverage of that race will begin on Sunday at 1 o'clock Eastern Time. It's on the USA Network due to the Olympic Games. And we have some tennis news to report on this morning. I mentioned there yesterday that Novak Djokovic and Simona Halep won the ATP and WTA Rogers Cup tournaments in Toronto over the weekend, and those were big time wins for those two going into the Olympics. Now they both have some momentum getting ready to go to the Rio de Janeiro Olympics. I wish every competitor the very best of luck in the Rio de Janeiro Olympics, no doubt about it, and it's going to be fun to see how all the athletes do for tennis, no doubt. Lastly, golf news this morning. Jimmy Walker won the 98th PGA Championship this past weekend at Baltusrol. It was his first career major victory and 6th career win on the PGA Tour. He's not eligible for the Olympic Games because Team USA has already set their Olympic golf roster. It includes Ricky Fowler, Bubba Watson, Patrick Reed, and Matt Kuchar. Henrik Stenson will represent Sweden. We'll also have Danny Willett representing England, and we'll have Sergio Garcia representing Spain. So it's going to be a very fun Olympic golf competition for sure in Rio. This is the first time that golf has been in the Olympics since 1904. So it's going to be fun to keep an eye on that tournament, no doubt. Several of the players have decided not to go. Those players include Adam Scott, Rory McIlroy, Jordan Spieth, and a host of others because of the Zika virus and health concerns down in Rio de Janeiro, Brazil. But I commend all the players and athletes that are going to the Rio de Janeiro Olympics to represent their countries, because a lot of the players wouldn't do that in these circumstances, but they have, and that is very commendable on their part, no doubt. And ladies and gentlemen, with that, that's going to do it for this edition of the ET Considers Everything podcast for Tuesday, August 2nd, 2016. If y'all don't mind, like this video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and as always, I'll keep you posted on sports news as I get them across my tablet. For now, this is ET Eric Tyler Mullins reporting from Pound, Virginia. Have a great day, everybody. Thank you very much for watching, and thank you very much for subscribing to the YouTube channel. Later.